Here's the scene. It's about 1.5 million years ago. The African savannah, high noon. The sun is absolutely merciless. We're talking 40 plus degrees, no shade, nothing but cracked earth and golden grass stretching in every direction. And right in the middle of all that heat, a creature is running. It's been running for hours. It doesn't have claws, it doesn't have fangs, it's not fast, not by animal standards anyway, but it has been chasing the same antelope since morning. And here's the thing, the antelope is slowing down. It's overheating. Foam at the mouth, legs wobbling. It has nowhere left to go. And this creature, this early human ancestor, barely even broke a sweat. Well, actually, it broke a lot of sweat. That's kind of the whole point. And I bet you didn't know that the reason that hunter could do what no other predator on the savannah could do, run prey to death in the midday heat, is directly connected to why you don't have fur right now. So let's talk about it. Here's something that'll mess with your head a little. You might be wondering, didn't losing fur make things worse? Like, every other mammal out there is covered head to toe, and they seem to be doing just fine. Your dog has fur. Lions have fur. Even the chimpanzee, our closest living cousin, sharing 98.7% of our DNA, has fur. So why are we the ones standing here looking like a shaved ape? And the real kicker? We haven't actually lost the genes for a full coat of body hair. Scientists at the University of Utah and University of Pittsburgh confirmed in 2023 that those genes are still sitting in our genome, fully intact. They're just switched off, silenced. Like someone went into the instruction manual for building a human and crossed out the part about the fur coat. Something in our evolutionary past made that change so useful, so life-saving, that it stuck. And to understand what that was, we need to go back to the moment everything changed. Around 2 million years ago, something happened to the African landscape. The dense, cool, shaded forests that our ancestors had called home for millions of years started shrinking. The climate was shifting. In their place, open savanna, hot, exposed, unforgiving grassland, and if you wanted to eat, if you wanted to survive, you had to go out into it. Now here's the problem. Our ancestors at this point, early members of the genus Homo, were starting to walk upright and cover serious ground on foot. They were getting bigger bodies, longer legs, bigger brains that needed constant energy. And bigger brains, you might not know this, generate a tremendous amount of heat. Most other primates, chimps, gorillas, orangutans, have a specific biological trick for cooling blood before it reaches the brain. Humans, we never developed that. We lost it, which means our brains are uniquely vulnerable to overheating. So you've got a creature with a heat-generating supercomputer for a head, walking upright through blazing open savanna, needing to cover long distances every single day to find food and water. A thick fur coat at this point isn't warmth and protection anymore. It's a death sentence. And here's where the body starts doing something extraordinary. Most mammals cool down by panting. Think of your dog lying on the floor, mouth open, tongue out, working overtime. It works, but it has limits. You can't exactly run a marathon while panting. Humans took a completely different route. We sweat, and I don't mean a little. We sweat like nothing else on this planet. Humans have somewhere between 2 and 5 million eccrine sweat glands distributed all over the body. Chimps, by comparison, have those glands mostly restricted to the palms of their hands and the soles of their feet. Most other mammals are in the same boat. But here's the catch. Sweat only works if it can evaporate, and a thick coat of hair, that blocks evaporation. The fur traps the moisture right against the skin. And suddenly your elegant cooling system is useless, so the body made a trade. Less fur, more surface area for sweat to evaporate, and suddenly you have one of the most efficient biological cooling systems in the animal kingdom. And this right here is what made that scene at the beginning possible. You might be wondering, what does sweating have to do with hunting? Everything. Anthropologists call it persistence hunting. It's exactly what it sounds like. You don't chase an animal at full speed trying to catch it, you jog after it, steadily, relentlessly, for hours. Most four-legged animals dissipate heat through panting, but they can't pant and run at the same time at full intensity without overheating. A galloping horse or antelope is generating massive heat and can't get rid of it fast enough. They have to stop. A human can keep going. Bare skin plus millions of sweat glands meant that early Homo could literally run prey into the ground on a hot day. That's not a metaphor. It's documented in the fossil record and still practiced today by the San people of the Kalahari and the Raramuri of Mexico. Losing the fur didn't make us weaker. It made us hunters like nothing else alive. But stay with me, because here's where it gets even more interesting. Losing the fur didn't just change how we hunted. It triggered a whole chain of consequences that shaped almost everything we recognize as distinctly human. When that thick hair went away, the skin was suddenly exposed. Direct sunlight, UV radiation, no protection. And in equatorial Africa, that UV radiation is intense enough to destroy folate, a critical B vitamin that's essential for DNA repair and healthy pregnancies. Lose your folate, and your offspring start showing birth defects. So, the body had a problem to solve, and it solved it fast, evolutionarily speaking. Dark, melanin-rich skin pigmentation became the standard in tropical-dwelling early humans, functioning as a biological sunscreen. Scientists studying the MC1R gene, the primary gene regulating human pigmentation, found that it was locked into producing dark pigmentation around 1.2 million years ago, right around when body hair loss was happening. The two changes came as a package. And then there's the brain connection. Remember that heat-vulnerable superbrain we talked about? With better whole-body temperature regulation now possible through sweat, the brain could afford to get bigger. It had the cooling infrastructure to support it, and bigger brains meant more complex social behavior, more language, more coordination, more everything. Now look, science doesn't always agree, and there are a couple of other theories worth knowing. Mark Pagel, an evolutionary biologist at the University of Reading, has argued that losing fur also dramatically reduced parasites. Lice, fleas, ticks. They thrive in dense fur. Less fur means fewer places for them to hide and breed, and in a world without antibiotics or medicine, a serious parasite load could kill you. Clothes and fire, uniquely human inventions, could then replace the warmth that fur once provided. And here's the wild piece of evidence for that theory: lice DNA. Scientists studying the evolution of human lice found that when our ancestors lost their body fur, the lice that used to roam freely all over the body suddenly found themselves confined to just two hairy regions: the head and the pubic area. Over time, these two isolated populations diverged into two distinct species: head lice and pubic lice, separated from each other by a vast desert of bare skin. That split is estimated to have happened around 3 million years ago, which lines up with early hair loss. There's also a fascinating side note about clothing. Body lice, the kind that live in fabric, only appear in the genetic record around 170,000 years ago, which means we lost our fur roughly a million years before we started wearing clothes. Think about that. Early humans walked around naked in Africa for nearly a million years before anyone thought to put something on. So the parasite theory and the thermoregulation theory aren't really in competition. They probably both happened, layering on top of each other as selection pressure. So here's what it all comes down to. Losing our fur wasn't some freak accident or some sign that evolution was confused. It was a precise, multi-layered adaptation to a world that was getting hotter, more open, and more demanding. No fur meant sweat could work. Sweat working meant we could run under a midday sun that stopped every other predator in its tracks. Running under midday sun meant we could outhunt animals 3 times our size. Bare skin meant we needed darker pigmentation, which protected our DNA. Better temperature regulation meant our brains could keep getting bigger, and bigger brains meant eventually us. You know what's wild though? Those fur genes are still in there, sitting in your genome, switched off, patiently waiting. Evolution didn't throw them away, it just filed them under not needed right now. If you want to go deeper into the world of early humans, what they ate, how they survived, what wiped some of them out, make sure you're subscribed because there's a lot more of this story left to tell.